How are you feeling? You got John Rigg'd here. I'm a huge fan of the Famicom Disk System. In fact, anytime I'm at any convention and people ask me, hey, what are you looking for? My answer is usually, I'm not looking for anything in particular, but I'm always on the lookout for more Famicom Disk System games. It's fun to collect for, harder and harder to find, you never know what you're going to find, and it's always kind of a crapshoot too, whether the game actually works or not, or whether the game that it says on the label is what you get, because they had in Japan, you could take your old games in there and get them rewritten onto something else, so there's some of that to contend with too. But I'm a huge fan of the system, and another one of my friends who's a huge fan of the system is my buddy Chris, the old-ass retro gamer.
Hey everybody, Chris the old-ass retro gamer here, and I want to thank John Rigg'd for inviting me to participate in this video, because I'm a huge fan of the Famicom Disk System. It's not a console I was really aware of back in the day, and really wasn't until a few years back when I got myself this uber sweet Sharp Twin Famicom here. It's awesome!
So, it's funny, Chris. You and I both have the Sharp Twin. However, ours are inverted in color. He has the red one with the black, and I have the black one with the red. And these systems are very, very cool, because it's Famicom as well. You can do Famicom as well as the Famicom Disk System all on one cart, and it has the easy-to-use cables in the back, just like that, huh? And before I had one of those, I had one of the traditional standard ones through the Famicom. I actually had an old TV I would actually have to play this on to go to channel, like 90 or channel 91 or something weird like that, because of just how that works out too. But you can use one of these through like a Famicom converter and use it like on a top loader or even a clone system. It usually works. A lot of ways to play Famicom Disk System games. Just gotta have the stuff for it, right? Now I figure since Chris and I are both big fans of the Famicom Disk System, we'll do 10 great Famicom Disk System games. These are 10 of the best games for the Famicom Disk System. If you don't know what you're looking for, maybe it's going to be too text heavy with that Japanese language and you can't do it. So these are 10 awesome games, 10 great games, 10 phenomenal games that you don't need to know Japanese to play them. And I'm going to start with Chris.
So John wanted me to pick 5 of my favorite games for the Famicom Disk System. I did manage to whittle my collection down to 5 awesome selections. Starting with Falcyon by Konami. It's kind of like playing Gyrus, and it's like an into-the-screen shooter where enemies come in these circle waves towards the camera and you need to shoot them. Sometimes it can be a little hard to play because it's hard to judge where you need to be in order to shoot an enemy, but it is super fun. The music isn't the greatest. I know Konami can do better than they did in this game, but for what it is very, very fun.
Now my first game is one of those, if you have a Famicom Disk System, you may as well have this game too. There's always a couple of those for every game system where it's like, well, if you have this, you probably have this. And that game right is this guy right here. This is the Mysterious Murasame's Castle. Now, Mysterious Murasame's Castle, this is a game that could have come out in America. I could have seen this early on in the NES era. But you just kind of go around in that overhead kind of Zelda style, but it's all action. And you can move from screen to screen. You can pick up power-ups along the way. You can pick up other little cool things along the way too. Very, I don't want to say ancient Japanese, but it reminds me of like, the castle that looks like this in Mario Odyssey is what this reminds me of now after playing Mario Odyssey. But it probably all started with this one, with the Mysterious Murasame's Castle. So if you got a Famicom Disk System, I'd recommend picking that one up for sure.
Next up is Ultraman Kaiju Taikoku no Gyakushu. I do not speak Japanese, so kind of hard for me to pronounce these things. This is a pretty decent side-scrolling platformer. You play as the character from the TV show, the human character, and you have to find these icons that will power up your Ultraman meter. And once you fill it up, you can change into Ultraman and everything becomes a lot easier. You only have a standard gun when you're in your human form, and when you become Ultraman, you can punch and kick the crap out of everything, and there's giant kaiju creatures within the level that are a lot easier to take down if you are in your Ultraman form. It's a lot of fun. It can be frustrating at times, but it is definitely worth picking up. It's one of the best Ultraman games I've played, way better than the Super Nintendo version by far.
Now Now, even though I don't have it complete, I do have it on a disc, and this is Bio Miracle Bokute Upa is basically what it's called. This game is a platformer you play as a baby, but it's from Konami, and I'm here to tell you it's already cooler than you think. Now, it is a platformer, and you have like a magic rattle. You hit the enemies with it, and then they puff up like a balloon, and you can either stand on them to get to higher platforms, or you can just bump into them, and it becomes basically a weapon, destroying anything in its path. You can pick up other power-ups along the way too and help you out, sure. It's from Konami when they were like ruling the video game world, but this game, I'm telling you, it's just a super, super fun game to play, super colorful. You may even recognize the lead character. If you're into the Parodius series, this is where the game comes from. You can play as a little baby. Yeah, it comes from this game right here. Got a Famicom Disk System? Might be worth checking out.
Next up is Gall Force Eternal Story. This one is a vertically scrolling shooter. It looks kind of generic at first. Once you beat a boss, you unlock a new character, and that character adds weapons to your ship. So your ship has like these 2 pods on the side, kind of like wings, which add 2 extra hits to your ship. So it's not one-hit kills like in most shmups from the day. One hit will take out 1 pod, another hit will take out your second pod, and then the 3rd hit will take out the ship completely. But those pods can be maneuvered around to take advantage of the weapons that the characters that you unlock as you progress through the game will give you, which is awesome. It's a cool twist to the vertically scrolling shmup formula.
My next pick is another one from Konami, Maikyu Jin Dababa. Now, it's just fun to say Dababa. However, the game itself, it starts out with a very fun, I don't know how fun it is, but it starts out with a pretty cool little opening cinematic here. It looks kind of silly on your behalf there, but you can pretty much tell what's happening here. You know, the girl is going away, and you gotta find her yourself. And this is when it brings you to the action part of the game, and it reminds me a lot of the dungeons from Star Tropics, where you don't really walk from space to space, but you jump from space to space, and there is no jump button. I mean, there is a jump button involved, and that will help you jump farther, but just moving is jumping from invisible tile to invisible tile. But you do have like a weapon, whatever that weapon happens to be, I'm not exactly sure. But it's just a fun game, and it's a cool game, and it's a game I've had ever since I started collecting Famicom Disk System games, so nostalgic on that level, I guess, but it's still, it's still a fun game, and it's cool to see games like this. It reminds me of a game that could have come out for the NES, and I've never had a chance to play it before, so this is pretty cool, and it's called the Dababa. It's from Konami. It might be worth checking out for you.
Next up is Hermana No Kiseki, which is another game by Konami, super awesome. Imagine Indiana Jones being mixed with Castlevania and Bionic Commando. It's a side-scrolling platformer where you play as this Indiana Jones-esque archaeologist guy who's in these ruins, and you have this like hook shot that you stick a post in the ground, and this diagonal hook shot will come out of it and lock onto a platform that's above you, and you have to climb up the rope to that next platform to ascend in the levels. And it gets very tricky. Enemies come from all over the place. You will get knocked off your rope. It leaves you open for attack. It can be a little frustrating, but it's very different, and I'm surprised that this never got released over here because it is a very quality game. It is a lot of fun. Hard as hell, but definitely worth it. And I love that box art. It does look like an Indiana Jones game.
What could be one of my picks for best game for the Famicom Disk System, I'm going to show this to you right now, is this guy right here, Otoki, or maybe it's Otoki. Otoki is a musical shooter. It's a musical shmup, in a way. Dance and beat the rhythm game? I don't know if you'd go that far to call it that, but it's a vertical shooter, it's a vertical shmup. However, it's kind of based on the music that you're playing, if that makes any sense whatsoever. You hold your A button down, and then you press your D-pad in the direction you want to basically launch, and that's how you get more music notes. It's how you attack the enemies, and so much more too. It sounds like the lamest thing ever. until you play it, until you listen to it to yourself. And I captured this footage. Unfortunately, I captured the footage with the sound also patching through, so I wasn't listening to the music as I was getting this footage, so I don't know how well I'm doing. Maybe not too well, not as well as I could have done. But this is one to look out for, no doubt indeed.
And lastly is probably what is the most well-known game from the Famicom Disk System aside from Super Mario Bros. 2. It is what ended up becoming the American Super Mario Bros. 2. Yume Kuju Doki Doki Panic. It was turned into Super Mario Bros. 2 in the US because the Japanese Super Mario Bros. 2 was deemed way too difficult for American audiences, which is a load of crap. Everything you know and love about the American version of Mario Bros. 2 is in here. There's 4 characters to choose from in this. They basically play the same as the ones from the American version. And instead of being able to change characters in between each level that you beat, you can only do them in blocks of 3. It's really strange the way it's set up, but it's strange playing through this game with the familiar music and the levels and the mechanics and everything and not seeing the Mario Brothers characters in it. It's just bizarre, which is why I had to have this, because I love Super Mario Bros. 2. I had to have the original version of the game. And it is definitely one of the games you need to have if you are going to collect for the Famicom Disk System. And the version that I got came with something quite curious, a little prophetic if you want to look at it that way. There's a sticker that comes with the complete version of the game that features Mario and the main character shaking hands. Almost like they're about to switch places in the American version.
And in the world of Famicom Disk System, I don't even know if you'd call this a hidden gem, but it just sounds obscure enough. And it's actually a pretty decent game too, so happy to show this one off too, and just the label alone tells the story. This game was called Kick Challenger Airfoot. Kick Challenger Airfoot. So in Kick Challenger Airfoot, you play as a tomato. I know with the tomatoes, but however, you play as a tomato with a pair of floating feet, basically, and that's how you walk. Now, the control mechanics on this, as you're looking down, you hold the A button, and then that's how you move your foot. And when you let go, the foot steps. And then when you hit A again, then you walk with the other foot. So you walk around, and then you also have to kick the other stuff, and kick the enemies, and kick the items out of the way, and that's also how you collect the items, and this is just weird enough and just obscure enough that it's definitely worth mentioning on this list. Kick Challenger Airfoot. Who would have thunk it? I have no idea where they came up with the idea. I'm not exactly sure. However, it's actually a pretty decent game. I'm a big fan of this game personally. I always have fun with this one, not just because I love saying the name, but it's also just fun to kind of, you know, walk around and stuff like that. And I like getting your feet crossed so you have like your left foot out where your right foot should be and all that too. And you can get, you know, you get power-ups along the way too to make your kicks stronger or get your strides faster and all that too. So this is a game that I'm telling you, if you have a Famicom Disk System, it's one that I would recommend. And even though it looks a little silly, especially based on the front there, I think it's a cool game. I think it's a really cool game, and I'm happy to have a copy of it. And those are my 5 games, and those are his 5 games, right?
So those are my 5 picks. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope I managed to convince some of you to buy some of these games, because trust me, if you're collecting for the Famicom Disk System, you need these. Thanks again, John Rigg'd, and this is the Old Ass Retro Gamer out!
I want to thank Chris, the Old Ass Retro Gamer, for joining me on this channel. Make sure you check out his channel as well. Give him a subscribe, and you'll see me pop up on his channel every once in a while too. What about you? What do we leave out? What are some other great Famicom Disk System games? Let us know in the comments below. I know there are several I left off the list. A lot of great Famicom Disk System games out there, and I'm still discovering new ones too. So please tell me in the comments below, and those will be more that I'll have to check out for myself. And just to kind of throw it out there, you can play Famicom Disk System games if you hack your NES Classic Edition. Just gonna throw that out there. More videos are always on the way. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out, and I will hopefully see you at a convention near you. Take care.